Hey guys, Coach Hook'em 7 here. Another episode of H&H for you. Only been a couple days since our last one. Baseball was canceled today, so we decided to do an impromptu show here. We just had the brackets released, conference titles finished, and we had bowls announced, all that fun stuff. Quite a fun finish there, particularly at D1A. Husker fan, how are we doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's raining outside, so I can't work on my tan today, which is disappointing, but could be worse.
Yeah, you need a 10, I'm sure. I'm actually kind of happy our games got canceled. We were supposed to play 12 games in 7 days. And so we were stressing about how we were going to make pitching work because we had two guys out all week. But now I don't have to stress about it. So I'm a little bit relieved. Bummed we probably won't get the games in on the year, but at least relieved I don't have to stress about that anymore. Guys, we kind of figured we'd talk about, we're going to go through a bracket, each one, kind of talk about who we like in each bracket, who we expect to win the bracket, and get us to a Final Four. And then maybe touch on some conference championships for D1A and a couple of the bowl matchups that we find the most interesting. So Husker fan, starting it out, we're in the North bracket here. Read them out real quick. I have Dayton as the first seed, Lehigh is the 8 seed, Yale is 2, Towson is 7, Grambling is 3, Maine is 6, St. Mary's is 4, and Brown is 5. Initially looking at this bracket, what are your thoughts?
I fully expect Dayton to win this particular bracket. First round game for them is the same, so that's an easy dub. They are already probably looking forward to the second round, where I think they're going to be getting St. Mary's. Granted, though, St. Mary's still has to face Brown and Connor Surfer. I've seen him across a few worlds, but looking at his team right now, he has a senior quarterback and a redshirt freshman. That's not going to be good enough to hang with St. Mary's. Granted, though, St. Mary's, if I remember correctly, their quarterbacks, eh, the senior not that great, but this redshirt sophomore decent enough. And best of that, my money's on St. Mary's. They'll make it to the second round, only to get beat by Dayton. And then looking at the other half of that particular bracket, Grambling, always go with them because of the coach. I think he's been there a while now. Great coach, knows what he's doing. He's built himself a proper system, and I think he wants to get beyond the second round, or at least he will get beyond the first this time around. And Maine, I think Cherry had Maine in one of the other worlds,
He had him here
and
too. It's been a
oh
minute. It's been a minute though.
yeah, but I don't know if Wingman will be able to hang 7 seasons into his tenure in Wilk, so I wouldn't put any money on him, unfortunately. Yale, I expect them to Yale all the way to a dub in the first round, so you will have Grumbling Yale in the second round. And when it comes to that, I think the safe money is on Grumbling to win that matchup. Nothing against Yale, but I gotta go with what I know more about Grumbling than I do about Yale. And then in what will it be like this no,
Quarterfinals.
the quarterfinal, Dayton and Grambling. Again, my money on Dayton to go and represent the North.
Yeah, yeah. I think you actually picked it perfectly. I could see Towson being somewhat of a challenge for Yale. I know that coach is still fairly new, but he seems to be kind of getting it together. He plays in the same conference as Georgetown, so there's not a lot of human competition. So that might have drug Towson's seeding down. But I'm kind of with you. I do like Yale and SJU Rat to kind of pull off that first round game. Again, Grambling, I think very solid team. They should win easily. I like them also on that side of the bracket, and I think they'll go through pretty easily to face Dayton, who I also think will go through pretty easily to that quarterfinal. And we Panthers been pulling off some good wins and hanging with some good teams, but I can vouch for that Dayton offense, and it's definitely tough and very potent. So I'm with you. I think Dayton's going to roll through this, and I really don't think it's going to be much of a challenge, honestly. The only way I see they might get one is from Grambling, but again, I think it's probably going to be, a 14 to 21 point lead or win for Dayton coming out of the North.
Yeah,
And
that does sound about right. And like we with Towson, like you said, you kind of like them, but they haven't made it out of the first round when they have made it to the playoffs with the current coach. So based off that, like I don't really have a whole lot of faith in them turning things around and making it past the first round. You know, Like nothing against the coach, but he hasn't shown me anything for me to have any sort of faith in him. So
Well, the reason I think it could be, you're talking Townsend Yale, right?
yeah,
The reason I think it could be decent though is that just SGU Rad is also kind of has about the same track record. Now he hasn't been as high as a 2 seed in a while, but he's also been taken out first or second round quite frequently. So that's why I think it could be a little closer than maybe it looks like as far as the seeding is concerned. But I
hmm
do still expect Yale, especially since he won the Ivy and there's some decent coaches in there. A couple of them still
yeah,
rebuilding. I expect him to still be able to take care of business.
oh yeah, without a doubt.
All right, moving on to the south real quick. We got Northern Iowa 1, UMass 8, Villanova 2, Cal Poly 7, Florida A&M 3, Texas Southern 6, Coastal Carolina 4, and Youngstown State is the 5 seed. Looking this one over, what are you thinking on this one, the South bracket?
Safe money will be on Northern Iowa to go through and represent the South, but in recent seasons, Northern Iowa has disappointed me a little bit. So I don't know if I'm how much I'm willing to put on the line for them. Though I think they have things figured out again. Two straight conference titles where they've beaten you.
Thanks.
So just a
Still hurts a
reminder.
little bit, okay? It's a fresh wound, okay?
Just a reminder in case you had forgotten, Just want to make sure you remember that and use it as a bulletin material as you go into the playoffs.
Okay.
But yeah, I think you might have a few things figured out now because he went through like a 4 season stretch where he was no silverware to show for what he was doing, but at least now he has some, two conference titles. I'm hoping this time around he gets past the second round of playoffs. So I expect him to beat UMass. Nothing against UMass, but I think they might be a bit outmatched in this particular game. And then you have Coastal Carolina and Youngstown State. Uh, I'm going with Youngstown State. Babsick, everybody knows the name. He's been around long, long time. But then he's going up against J9, Husker fan 58. Huskers were everywhere. He's going up against 58, and 58 has a decent roster on him. And
Wait, are you guys the same person? Okay, I'm just kidding.
really, really, it wasn't funny the first time around. And I'm just looking at the Coastal Carolina schedule here. He lost to the Grand Boy and VMI. So that tells me there might be a weakness in his pass defense. So whoever plays him, just do that. But then he also got stomped out again by Dayton. So I would want to put, faith in my fellow Husker here. But I'm going to have to go with Youngstown State. I'm sorry, 58, but where were you to have been the 58th one? Come on, how can you be the 58th Husker to show up, bruh? You gotta be in here real quick, bruh. So I'm gonna go with Youngstown State, and then you have Florida A&M taking on Texas Southern. Cherry, great guy, great coach, knows what he's doing, and then going up against Bapu. Now, I've seen the name in a few worlds, but don't have a lot of knowledge about him. 6 seasons into his Wilt tenure, and in his tenure at Texas Southern, first time around he made it into the playoffs, lost in the first round. Second time around, second round. So you can see there has been some improvement, little improvement, but improvement nonetheless. Now the expectation from me would be that he continues to improve. So I'm gonna go with that. I think this will be considered an upset. I'm gonna go with Texas Southern on this one.
Ooh.
Hey, you, I like people who improve. You keep getting better and better. I like people who age like wine and not like milk. You know.
Yeah,
So
fair.
I'm hoping he's going in the wine direction and not the milk direction. And then we have Nova and Cal Poly. Best of the past few seasons, gotta go with Nova. I'm sorry, I've seen Graham in a few other worlds. He has whooped me a few times. Decent enough coach, he knows how to get things done. But I might have to go with Nova in this one. And then once we get into the second round, Nova, Texas Southern, I'm picking Nova again. I have to go with Nova. Then the other half of that bracket, UNI and Youngstown State. I'm hoping this is the season for UNI to get past the second round, so I'm going with them. And then you have Nova and UNI, and this is where the road ends for UNI, I'm sorry to say. So I'm going with Nova, going to represent the southern region.
All right, fair enough. My thoughts on it. I'll start at the bottom. Cal Poly, still rebuilding, first or second year there for Graham. He's got no horses to hang with Nova, so Nova wins there easily. I'm gonna stick with Chetty and Florida A&M to beat Texas Southern. Texas Southern to me just hasn't proven to be consistent enough in areas that I think they should be or need to be to go deeper into playoffs, even if it is as early as the second round. So I'm
Hmm.
picking Florida A&M there. The most interesting matchup to me, if not in the entire playoffs, definitely this bracket is the Coastal Carolina Youngstown State game.
Yep.
And yeah, as you were talking about, I was kind of going through the same thing. Last season, I think it was Husker fan 58 had that deep playoff run. I think he made
Hmm.
quarterfinals, kind of surprised some people. I think he was it was his first season. So last year was the first round. That first season, I think he was like a 6th seed or something, kind of surprised everybody. Last season, an early exit. I think that's going to be a fantastic game. I played Youngstown. He held his own, both the last 2 seasons against me, and definitely a great coach with some pretty good talent on that team. I mean, I got to go Gateway here, and I'm going to take Youngstown State as well. And then I also think Northern Iowa is going to, no offense here, but roll through UMass. So that gives us our second round. I think Northern Iowa is going to beat Youngstown again. I think it'll be a decent score. But UNI, I think, is pretty solid lock to make the quarters with fairly, I won't say fairly, no, with hardly any resistance, but I would think they're going to get there decently. I don't think they're going to have too much to worry about yet. And then, the bottom end, we got Florida A&M and Nova. I'm kind of with you on there. I do think Nova pulls that off again. Might be a little bit closer than maybe people are kind of thinking. It's a 2 and a 3 seed, but Chetty's always got a great defense. Nova's had a kind of a rougher stretch the last couple seasons, so he's, see if this will be a big test to see if he's kind of got that ship righted. But I do
Hmm.
pick this to be a 1 and 2 final for the region in the quarterfinals. And again, it's kind of a toss-up at that point again, man. It's almost as hard as that 4-5 game for me. I really want to pick Jay Hunters, and I know what he's really done and everything. He's obviously got game planning figured out. Beat me twice, had a solid season the last couple seasons. Nova, like I said, has had a couple of not so deep playoff runs the last couple seasons, but he has fairly recently. Both of them looking to kind of turn that corner again and make these deeper playoff runs. Honestly, it's really tough for me. I'm gonna say Jay Hunters gets it done. I'm gonna call Jay Hunters making the Final Four and winning the South bracket.
Okay.
All right, and then let's move on to the East. Run them down real quick. I've got Stephen F. Austin is my 1. Harvard is 8. Georgetown is 2. Southeast Missouri State is 7. VMI is 4. Florida Atlantic is 5. New Hampshire is 3, and Drake is 6. What do you got your thoughts on the East?
Just looking at the teams and listening to you, like read them, all of them. Like safe money will be on Georgetown to go back because I think they're the defending champs, right?
Who? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Georgetown.
Yeah. hmm
Sa- like safe money is on them going back and probably retaining the title. But you know what? Nah, I ain't feeling like going with safe money today. So I'm just gonna be out here like that. Stephen F. Austin, they're gonna represent the East.
Oh, and yeah, okay. Um,
Yeah, you heard it here first.
so for me, I'll start at the bottom again. Georgetown, they have the 1 loss to St. Mary's. Kind of a surprising loss, but again, early season. Then they just played Sims. Their conference is pretty weak, but they always have been. We know Georgetown is stacked. But I do kind of think that they maybe have some vulnerabilities this season that could, cut them short. But I do like their chances in this bracket. I think the only upset I could possibly see would be New Hampshire Drake. But I don't even think that's going to happen. I think the top seeds are going to win across the board. That's Stephen F. Austin, VMI, New Hampshire, and Georgetown. I do think they're all going to win pretty easily, especially those top, well, the 2, the 4, and the 1, I do think are going to win pretty easily. The 3-6, like I said, could be a little bit of a surprise. This Mojo lad there at Drake, but he's had some tough games and still looking to kind of finish his rebuild there at Drake a little bit. And then at the top, I really think that VMI Stephen F. Austin game could be really good. The Grunt Boy's still looking to take his turn and actually get a deep playoff run. Now that he's finally completed his rebuild at VMI and able to establish some talent. We're kind of waiting to see if he can do that. Stephen F. Austin last year, I believe, was a Final Four team.
I think so.
Let me check that real quick. Oh, quarterfinal team last year. Final Four the season before. So they've been making deeper playoff runs, which is good. I think I'm going to take them to beat VMI in that second round, and then Georgetown's going to roll through whoever they face in that second round. I don't think it's going to be close. Where Georgetown will be tested is in that quarterfinal matchup, and even if it's VMI, or either if it's VMI or SFA, that should be a pretty solid game. I like, Stephen F. Austin's chances better against Georgetown, and since that's who I had coming out, I think that'll be a better game. I kind of want to pick them, but I'm not sold. We've known what J.D. Driscoll has done. His only loss is by 3. He's still got a star-studded talent all over this team. So I'm gonna go with Georgetown. I am gonna go with safe money out of the East and have J.D. Driscoll reaching the Final Four from the East.
Yeah, that's it's safe money. It's called safe money for a reason. We know what he's capable of doing. You can take a look at the roster. It's a decent enough roster. He can beat anyone on any given day. 9 times out of 10, he's going to beat you. Then every now and again, that 1 out of 10, the engine says, "Nah, not today." But I like that. That's decent. I get why you want to go with them, but I'm sticking with Stephen F. Austin. But on the 3-6 matchup, I'm going with Drake on that one.
Oh, okay. All right. I
Because
really
I
think
think,
to win the bracket, it does come down to Stephen F. Austin or Georgetown, right? I mean,
yeah. Because New Hampshire, their quarterbacks, they're a bit young. So based off that, I wouldn't. It's hard for me to put a lot of faith in young QBs. That's the only reason why I'm sort of going with Drake. But like you said, when it comes down to deciding who represents the East, it's going to come down to Stephen F. Austin and Georgetown, and I'm going with Stephen F. Austin this time around. Georgetown, decent talent, but like I said, that 1 out of 10, the engine is going to say, nope, not today.
yeah, that's fair enough. And I'm ready for Mojo to kind of, take his step up too. He's a pretty good coach. He's really active in the forums and things. So I'm really excited to see once he gets Drake up and rolling, how they'll do, especially like in recruiting, competing with a team who always, brings in top talent in UNI, seeing if that can swing things in different favor, level the playing field, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, in the last bracket here, we got the East. Run them down real quick. We've got Tennessee Martin's the 1, Charleston Southern's the 8, Samford is 2, Holy Cross is 7, Indiana State is 3, Howard is 6, Furman is 4, and Penn is 5. What are your thoughts here on the West?
This one I think is more up in the air in comparison to the others because no team name really jumps out. Like Indiana State jumps out the most out of everybody because we have seen what has been happening with them in recent seasons. They've won a title recently, but at the same time though, the engine every now and again decides, we need an upset here and there. And I don't know if there might be one in the future for Indiana State. I will feel just because the engine does what the engine does. But looking at the specific matchups, Tennessee Martin, is it Charleston, right?
Charleston Southern, yep.
That's an easy dub going up against the Sim. So Tennessee Martin goes through. Then you have CJ going up against Miami Hefe. Now CJ has a few like blinders of games in his locker, and he usually saves those for the playoffs. Because I think didn't he go all the way to? He won a national title
Yep,
recently,
he won
right?
it 2 seasons ago.
So I don't know whether he still has the rabbit foot he had for that run, or he lost it, or he used up all his lucky charms in that run, or he still has some more that he could borrow from some of his fellow Reddit friends. But I think it might be a bit difficult for him to get by Miami Hefe. So I'll go Tennessee Martin and Penn in the second round. And then after that, I think I'm going with Penn again. So I expect Penn to make it to the quarters. Then looking on the other side, Indiana State rolls by Howard. That will be like a training session, just testing a few things out, running a few experiments just to see how things work. And then you have Holy Cross. You
So,
know what? I feel like another upset. Yeah, I'm going Holy Cross going through to the second round to get a beat down by Indiana State, and then you have Indiana State taking on Penn in the quarterfinals, and then Miami Hefe. I mean, Hefe is in his name. You have to respect that. You know what I mean? Like, you- if you come for the Hefe, you best not miss. So, are the Sycamores ready to go after the Hefe? Do you think you'll be able to take care of business against Penn?
yeah, are you asking me legitimately?
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to shoot you down real quick?
Oh, really?
Penn's in a second year rebuild.
I don't care.
All right. Well then.
Well, up until the quarters, I don't care. But I think in the quarters, the quality of the talent on the field is going to be what loses them that matchup, and then you go to the final four.
Okay. All right. My thoughts on it again. I'll start at the bottom. Sanford Holy Cross. I kind of with you. I don't know that I'm fully feeling a Holy Cross win. Robbie P's been around for a very long time. I believe this is his second stint at Holy Cross. Been there for several seasons and only first round losses. I think he might have had one second round loss. Sanford, for me, it's no offense to anything they've done. They were number 2 up until today. Um, I feel like they're kind of smoke and mirrors. It seems like when they kind of get to that upper echelon of talent or coaching, they struggle. So I could see that. I could see a Holy Cross Sanford upset here. I am going to take Sanford in that game. I do kind of think it'll be kind of close, and it is almost hard not to pull the upset. So I definitely think your Holy Cross prediction could come true. But I'm going to stick with Stanford there. Kind of with you on my game against Howard. No offense there. Just I think we have too much talent for Howard. I think we'll go through that first round fairly easily. In the 4-5 matchup, I'm going to take Furman. CJ Sweats looks like he's got a little bit, I guess, of a quote-unquote down year with the 3 losses, but he's come in at low seeds before and done extremely well in playoffs. I think at both of his national championships he's won in Wilk at D1AA, he was a lower seed. So can't count him out, and just the fact that Miami Hefe's in her second year rebuild. Third year rebuild, I might be able to pick him, but second year, I'm going to stick with Furman on that one. And then Tennessee Martin, I think, rolls through pretty easily in their first round as well. And then Furman taking on Tennessee Martin. Furman actually lost to Sanford earlier this year, and based the fact that Tennessee Martin destroyed Sanford twice, I'm going to take UTM to roll through that game as well. And then me against Sanford. Like I said, not trying to diss Sanford. I just feel like he's smoke and mirrors. Your chance to prove me wrong in the second round if we do end up meeting. But I'm going to take Indiana State there to get to the quarterfinals and taking Tennessee Martin. And I do think that will be actually a really good game. Tennessee Martin against Indiana State. Both seem like they're pretty high offensive teams, not the best of defenses. But I think Indiana State still has too much talent. They're rocking the number 1 and number 2 quarterback according to Guess. I think that'll push them over the edge and through the bracket. And I do like my chances to make it out of the West and make it to the Final Four. But again, I think the toughest challenge is going to be Tennessee Martin in that third round.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, so we'll see how we got it. Those are our predictions there. So again, I have Indiana State out of the West. I have Georgetown out of the East. I have Northern Iowa out of the South. And I have Dayton out of the North. And I don't remember who you had. I think you had Dayton out of the North. South, you had Nova, I think. East, you picked Stephen F. Austin. And West, I don't remember who you ended up picking with. Me as well, I think. Yeah, because you had me playing
Yeah.
Penn, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
we'll see how that all shakes out there. Do you want to shift gears? Do you want to talk about D1A conference championships real quick and how those, at least just how the top three teams kind of shook out, or do you just want to jump into bowls?
We can recap the conference title game, starting off with the ACC. Like, wow, wow. Like, I was watching the Wizcast and I was just waiting for Miami to just, stop the momentum that Florida State had going for them and put up a few points on their own. So, but Florida State were not having it. They were like, I see your canes and I'm going to chop him down and bring him to a halt because we are the Seminoles. Knowles will do what Knowles do, that is take care of business. I think these Knowles are for real. They've been built up over, the last few seasons. And I think as they have shown us here, they are ready for the bright lights, they are ready for prime time, and they will be going up against Texas. And I hope we can touch up a little bit on that. But that game, he put up 27 points in the second half, holding Miami to just three. What a turnaround. Like, I want to know what adjustments he made or what juju he used, what tea leaves he read, what bones he threw on the ground and read, or what stars he looked at to get the second half adjustments. Because I wish I could make such adjustments, but no, I cannot.
Yeah, that's these games always intrigue me, the tales of two halves, because 20-3 at half, one way. I kind of saw that this morning, and I was like, I mean, I think Florida State probably could be close, but you'd kind of assume that Florida or Miami would be able to kind of keep that rolling. Obviously, not the case.
Hmm.
So awesome turnaround there in the second half for that game. We'll skip the Big 12 for just a second. The Big Ten came out about how we shook. I think actually Michigan put up a little better fight than we thought. Ball
Yeah.
State, we predicted them making a level 5. Very
Yep.
close to finish number 11. Didn't quite
So,
make it, so they were
yeah.
close. Wyoming did or should be in, I guess. I haven't checked, but at number 8, I
Yep.
imagine they made it.
Hmm.
Washington ended up playing UCLA, not USC, and cruising through that. And then LSU beating Florida. That's a good one there. And then the last two I do want to real quick just touch on was the Big 12, obviously. We got our other national title contender here in Texas. They competed against Nebraska. Both teams looked like they were pretty even throughout the game. Nebraska tried to rally there in the fourth quarter, maybe with a little more time, would have been able to do that, but they scored 3 times with 6 minutes left. That's just crazy there for the last little bit. So their hurry-up offense or whatever they ended up doing there at the end of the game was really working for them. So notes to take forward moving on. But what was your thoughts for the Big 12 title?
J9 needs to pay his special teams coach an extra bonus this time around. 2 onside kick recoveries that helped with that sort of mini comeback that essentially petered out with time expiring. But that was an impressive game. Like, I almost didn't pull up the Wizcast for that game because I was like, it's Jason Freeman. He knows what he's doing. He has done this over and over again. He'll take care of business. Then I remembered he lost a game this year to MP. So I was like, okay, there might be a chink in the armor. So, this is one to keep an eye on. And J9 is a great coach. Used to face him every season over in Hayes when he was at Cal, when I was at USC. So I know what he's capable of doing. Great halftime adjustments. So this was sort of on brand with him, making great adjustments and trying to make a comeback. So this was I was sort of happy and excited seeing the comeback coming, but then I was like, but I'm a prophet. I prophesized Texas making it to the national title game. So I need my Huskers to calm down and let me remain a prophet because I don't need people calling me a charlatan out here. So I
Uh,
was I was happy that time expired.
would have been a completely interesting game if, more interesting had Nebraska gotten that 2-point conversion there at the end, just to tie it up and take the game into overtime. With the momentum they had, could have swung things the other way.
That is true because I think if the game had gone to OT, they probably would have been able to take care of business and win it, and then probably propel Washington into the national title game. Speaking of which, I think it was Blitz who nobody was saying anything about how the games were going, and then Blitz broke that silence and jinxed it. And I was like, really, bro, how you gonna jinx things like that? I didn't know Blitz had that kind of power, but apparently he does.
Well, at least Washington still won. I mean, if they'd have lost, ended up losing, yeah, that would have definitely been bad.
Oh yeah, that is true.
And then one we didn't touch on real quick was South Florida beating Rutgers. Kind of a surprise there for Paul. We expected them to probably win that conference, and a 9-point loss there. So definitely an interesting. I'm gonna throw a loop at you here. The North Texas Middle Tennessee State game. We kind of debated how this would go because North Texas beat Macbeth,
Yep.
and then Middle Tennessee. I think that's who we kind of expected to come out of that side.
Hmm.
Very, very defensive game. It helps when North Texas is going to run the ball 60 times, but definitely a close finish there. North Texas will make a level 4 bowl. Do you have any thoughts or takeaways from that game?
I'm definitely a bit disappointed that a Tennessee team didn't win a conference title this time around because, well, I got stomped out by Florida yesterday, and I had hoped for Middle Tennessee to represent the entire state. And North Texas decided to crush all those hopes and dreams for all the little kids in Tennessee. It was totally uncalled for. I don't know what he has against kids, so there is that. But after seeing what he did to Troy State, that kind of was an indication that he might have things figured out for this season. But now the question is, can he keep that up from here on out as long as he's at North Texas? Granted, it'll be dependent on recruit distribution in the coming seasons, but at least now he knows what game plans work for him and the quality of talent that is required for him to achieve such levels of success. So now the pressure is really on, can you maintain the winning streak? Can you keep recruiting the same type of talent, or maybe even get better talent to actually be, a bit further up in the rankings to actually make noise to make a level 5 ball game?
Yeah, well, looking at him real quick, his quarterback didn't play very well, but he is a senior who's actually not terrible, but he relied heavily on his running back Jack Eaton, who averaged almost 6 yards a carry and had almost 200, to over 250 yards. So yeah, I'm assuming running is kind of his stuff. I remember correctly looking at Troy State. That was what he did, was run it. So that's definitely got a system figured out with running the ball. Problem is he fights some of those tougher defenses. He's going to probably struggle to move the ball on the ground. And with that, let's kind of take a look real quick at some of the bowl games that we like.
Oh, just
Sorry. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
one quick note. Like with all that running, like 60 odd attempts, no run was over 20 yards. The longest was 17 yards. No 20 plus yard runs for him. So he was, running the ball and not really eating up the clock, because when you look at the time of possession, he only had like 31 and a half minutes of ball possession, which is, you would expect him with 60 rush attempts to have, at least close to 40 minutes, but that wasn't the case. But, it's an interesting strategy that you use, running the ball, because at the same time, you're playing a little bit of keep away with the ball. But I guess he has figured things out now. The question is, can he maintain it now that he has figured things out?
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Checking out the bowls real quick. I think we could maybe go through here and either pick one from each level that you find interesting or just one in general. I quickly perused over the level ones, and really the closest game or biggest game to me, I think, would be Boise State and Oklahoma State. That's Chainsaw. He comes in with a barely winning record against Boise and Jeff 18, and they're 9-4. To me, that's probably the best matchup there. Louisville's rebuilding. Vandy's a sim. Mississippi State's a sim. That Texas Christian, I think Lafayette might. Oh no, Texas Christian Lafayette game might be actually pretty decent too. And then the Oregon, those last 3 games are all humans. They could be pretty interesting, but to me, the Boise State Oklahoma State game's the closest. I think Oklahoma State's probably a little bit more battle tested, hence the lower record. So I expect them to probably pull out that win in the level ones. Any of them there you kind of are keeping your eye on?
Oregon State with a rebuild because I think that's his first season there. Because I remember he had a big class and he was pulling all the
Oh yeah,
talent
he
out
just
in the
recruited
in the
really well.
Northwest.
Yep.
Oh, it's not even it's his third season there, so he is he's a bit seasoned there, going up against San Jose State, who I think I played this year or I play next season, and that might be an interesting one to just kind of see how things shake out, given that Oregon State has a big freshman class, so every most of the people who are going to be on the field are going to be underclassmen for the most part. So it'll be curious to see how things shake out. A lot of underclassmen going up against a mid-major. BCS with a lot of underclassmen versus a mid-major. That'll be one to sort of keep an eye on. But like I like your Boise State and Oklahoma State pick because I think maybe Chainsaw has figured things out. He has figured out to be a good neighbor with Blitz and probably come out figuring out how to recruit well for himself and how to get into a few ball games,
Yeah, fair enough.
even though they are level one ball games, but they are ball games
Yeah,
nonetheless.
and Wilk, that's almost a feat in itself, right?
Yes, it is.
Level twos, looking them over. Again, kind of the three that stick out to me are the bottom three, but more so the Texas Tech Utah, and then the NC State Missouri. I like the Texas Tech Utah because we were, a couple teams we've kind of talked about, and Crondon and his Texas Tech team against Big Zeke and his Utah team. Texas Tech looked like they were making some pretty good noise. I think it was last year they did really well, and then they finished pretty okay. But this year, 7-6 record against Utah, who's still, I believe, rebuilding. It's Big Zeke's either second or third season, I believe, there at Utah. If not, he's right at 4. He's definitely still barely getting his guys in there. And I actually kind of like Utah in that game. I think it could be pretty interesting and kind of fun, but I like that. And then the reason the NC State Missouri game kind of sticks out to me is you kind of got guys going. I guess I won't say necessarily in the opposite directions, but you got NC State, a coach who's still trying to find his way, maintain D1A, and Dean Horvey, who's been at Missouri for a long time, struggling to barely make a level 2 bowl. That's especially from what we've seen that Dean's been able to do in the past. He's kind of still hasn't been able to find his groove there at Missouri. So two coaches who are kind of, maybe on a warm, if not hot seat at their current job, really, really need this bowl win to try to maintain or increase that job security.
Yeah, that is why I definitely agree with you on that one. And I will say for the Utah Texas Tech game, if you enjoy running coaches, that's the game you want to pay attention to because everybody knows Cron is all about, running the ball. And then Utah, they have so many running backs, they have no choice but to run the ball. And with that in mind, I think it'll be a good way to see, what is the quality of the running backs and line you need if you decide to run to take up the run philosophy in at least in GD or at least in Wilk. So that'll be one to sort of keep an eye on. I'm interested to see how that one shakes out. But the NC State and Missouri game, like you said, that's the one that's going to be, really, really interesting to see how that shakes out. And like you said, the coaches, they're decent coaches, and it'll be interesting to see how they manage to get things figured out, they manage to get things sorted out so that they can, you know, get back to where we expect them, especially with Dean. Dean used to be at Tennessee, and he was a decent enough coach when he was there, and I think he's still in the record books for Tennessee. So we know what he's capable of doing, and I think we're just waiting for him to put things together at Missouri. Granted, I think it might be a bit difficult given how he's sandwiched between some big programs in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is not very forgiving. So you always need to be on it, and because the other guys who are in there with you are also always on it. So it'll be interesting to see, how that one shakes out. But my money in that one, I'm going with Dean just because I've faced him enough times and I think he's a decent enough coach. He'll be able to figure things out. And then looking at the level 4 ball games, Blitz and Able going at it, Oklahoma and Purdue. That should be a good one. My money would be on Blitz winning that one, just because Able is still sort of kind of putting together his roster and putting things together at Purdue. And then the rest of them, Nitros, Notonis, with Penn and A&M, that's going to be a good one, I think, just because of the quality and the level of wisdom that is contained within those two coaches. Like the level of knowledge they have about the game in their pink is about more than what I know on my own. So I fully expect that one to be like a 4-dimension type chess game where one guy does this, then the other guy does this, and I will keep my eye on that one, and I'll also be interested to see like how the game changes after the half, because I think once first half goes by, they see what the other guy is doing. I'll be interested to see what kind of adjustments that they'll be making in their game there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that game and then your game, I think, are probably the two best coming out. I think an elite against a mid-major, Nebraska should roll there. Same thing with USC and Houston. No offense to those mid-major coaches, it's just that's tough to do. Purdue,
Hmm.
I think, is still too far early in their rebuild, and I think Paul will be able to figure out that run game from North Texas. So I think your game against UCLA is going to be a great one. You made the CC, they lost their CC, so you both are trying to prove something there at the end of the season, get that W. And then the Texas A&M, Penn State, I'm right with you. Two of the most knowledgeable coaches. They look at this game from almost a completely different dynamic than a lot of other coaches. I think that'll be an interesting, like you said, chess match to see who's able to put things together, who adjusts better in the second half, and piece that together. I think those two games will be fantastic. And then the level fives. I mean, well, let's aside from the national championship, maybe for me the only game. Well, I think they'll all be pretty good. A rematch there in the Sugar Bowl. Well, I don't know if it's a rematch. I guess I don't know that UConn played South Florida, but two Big East teams playing there. South Florida beat the team that would have had to beat UConn to get there, but Trudeau's done a fantastic job this season at Connecticut, so I think that'll be interesting. Bama Washington, I think Lions fans wants to prove that he deserves a spot on that national title, can stay undefeated, facing Alabama, and Z. I think that'll be a pretty good game there. But to me, it's Ohio State LSU. Ohio State didn't win their conference. LSU did. LSU was able to climb into a level 5 bowl with that. I think that'll be a great game and probably the best. And then, I'm really trying to root for Wyoming, but I don't think they have enough to hang with a top-ranked Notre Dame team. But, I mean, the fact that Wyoming in itself is number 8, I mean, regardless of what happens in this bowl, that feat is just fantastic. And if that coach is not up for Coach of the Year award, I'm going to retire. No, that's a lie, but he should be totally a nomination for Coach of the Year, just saying. What game are you looking at?
Ah, all of them except the Fiesta Bowl, because like you say, it'll be difficult for Wyoming to hang with the Irish, given that it's not only the Irish, the quality of talent that they will have on hand because of the allocation, but then you also add on top of that, it's Kensei, and he has been at Notre Dame for a while now, so you fully expect him to just roll in that Wyoming game. And then you have Ohio State, who I think in most recent seasons I've been singing praises of, because they have just been rolling and they figure things out. Great talent, great coaching. They know what they are doing now. I think the team can pretty much run on autopilot. Going up against the Tigers, who this season found their teeth, and they've been biting whatever has been put in front of them. And MP, he knows what he's doing. I get to play him again with his Bruins, and I bet he's going to put up another. This time, I think he's going to be going for a 50-point margin against me, because in the SEC it was only a 42-point margin, and I bet he was a bit disappointed with that. But we're going to give it a good shot, like we always try to do. So that should be a good game. Then, like you said, Lions and Z32. That's another matchup where you have institutional wisdom and knowledge contained within both of them, that most people can only dream about having in GD, and that'll be an interesting game to see how it works out. Because with Z, for the most part, you know what is coming, but the question is, can you stop what is coming? And I think this one might come down to the talent levels, because I think Bama might be a little bit more talented than Washington. But I bet Lions fan knows all the tricks and the dark arts of GD to put his guys in the right positions to get the job done and take care of business. If not, at least to give the Tide a bit of a run for their money. So that would be an interesting one. And I think UConn played South Florida early on in the season, because I think
I think you're right.
True True Devil might have been complaining about that, because I think it wasn't a pretty sight if they played, but
They didn't. Oh yeah, they did. And
they did,
True Devil won by 7.
which I think Bad X is he had that written in his black book as a revenge type. Next time I see you, you better have some backup, or else you're going to be swallowing a few of your own teeth type of situation. So I think that's what we are going to get. I have my money on South Florida. The Bulls are going to take care of UConn. He will be feeling what it feels like to get gored by a bull. So I'm going with South Florida. I'm sorry, TD, but eh, you have not accepted any of my challenges, so I gotta go with South Florida, because they have accepted one of mine and they've taken me to the shed, so I gotta go with them.
All right, fair enough. And for the national title game, Florida State, Texas. You know, breaking this one down, looking at their numbers real quick. They both score over 50 points a game. Texas looks to have a little bit, they allow more points per game on defense. Both look pretty pass heavy with pretty good mix of run, averaging over 5 yards per rush. They average both around 3 sacks per game. Not a whole lot of interceptions or fumbles by either side, but they still are getting decent turnovers. Just looking at the breakdown of the numbers there. What are your thoughts about the national title game?
Second time in the last 4 seasons for Florida State to make it to the big dance. And I think, like the last time they made it there, they're going home empty-handed. I, like I told you, give me a minute here. Let me do some prophesizing. Let me look into the future real quick. Longhorns take care of business. Uh, Potent teams, both in the air and on the ground. Over 4,000 in the air for both teams, over 2,000 on the ground for both teams. They have receivers. One is a wide receiver, one is a back. Over 1,000 receiving yards, 52 tackles for a DB, 6 to 7, 14 sacks for a defensive lineman over with the Canes, 93 extra points, 109. So I just assume usually those are the number of touchdowns that they have scored. If it comes down to kicking, the safe money is going to be on Texas, 92 in comparison to 77. So I fully expect this one to be a close one. At the half, the Longhorns are up by 10 points at the most in my book.
All
And
right.
then once that happens in the second half, adjustments are made, and then I think it'll come down to the kicking game, and the kicker for FSU is going to crush a lot of hearts, and I think you might need to transfer after that.
All right. You don't think another repeat of the ACC title at them?
I That 10-point gap is going to be closed down to 7 or to 3. I'm sorry, and they'll have a chance to you know what? Scratch that. It'll come down to a single point with FSU, one final drive, they kick a field goal and they win it, and the kicker is going to miss. That's how I see it playing out in the national title game.
So FSU
And
misses a field goal to lose by 1.
exactly.
All right. Looking at these both, I think they're both obviously fantastic coaches. I think I'm gonna go with the upset here. I like. I mean, Florida State hasn't been really challenged other than by LSU Saint all season. You know, Texas had the one loss. I guess you could call it a surprising loss, especially in the way it happened to LSU. But they've been rolling down the stretch here. You know, they cruised through Oklahoma. They cruised through most of the Big 12, but they did get a challenge there again from the Big 10, or excuse me, the Big 12 title game. So, not that I don't think they're a fantastic team. They obviously have a fantastic coach, but I think Florida State could get it done. I think I've played JJL. I know he's got a heck of an offensive game plan. You know, haven't played Jason Freeman, but obviously he can coach with the best of them, and he's done a fantastic job at Texas. And, you know, I think last time Texas played Alabama, I think I actually picked Bama. Texas did win. I am, again, going to go against the Longhorns, which I know such a terrible thing to be doing. But my gut's just saying Florida State's going to be able to get this done. So I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to say Florida State wins it. And I do think, again, it's going to be pretty close. I don't think maybe a 1 point, but I do think probably definitely a field goal. I don't think it's going to be anything more than one score. If it is more than one score, I'm going to say that's Texas winning. I think if Florida State's going to win, it's going to be super duper close. If Texas wins, it's going to be close most likely, but I wouldn't be surprised either if Texas won by like 14.
And that's perfectly reasonable. But here's a little thing that I think you're missing. I think Jason Freeman might be a bit of a hoarder. Look at all those conference titles he's hoarding, and he's now trying to hoard all these national titles. I think if he wins it this time around, we might have to hold an intervention for Jason, man, because it's becoming a problem. Like 3 in a row after going 2 in a row. Like I think he might be a bit of a hoarder, so we might have to hold an intervention for him if he wins this time around.
All right. Well, you get with the rest of those Big 12 coaches, and you guys do that. And let me know how it goes.
I think we might have to do something. Like I'll talk to Blitz and then see if we can get together with everybody else, and Jay, Blitz, myself, and Dean, I'm sure will be more than willing to come on board. And Nitros over at A&M, I think everybody will be more than willing to sit him down and try and work him through this problem, because every problem is workable at this point in time.
Fair enough. All right, buddy, you got any other additional thoughts about anything?
MP, please take it easy on me. Like 42 points, that was a bit much. We have kids who are playing and watching this. Like, let the kids play. Don't crush the morale for my volunteers. Like, we are really trying. So just please don't embarrass us. Granted, we are just happy making a level 4 because I thought we were for sure going to be in a level 3. Nothing against level 3 balls, but we had our sights aimed a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, buddy. Good luck in your bowl game. Good luck to everyone in their playoffs and bowls as we go, even in D2. And then congrats to everyone who won their conference. Our plan will be probably to try to get a show in around the national title game. We'll probably bring a guest on for that if we can find somebody. If you're interested in coming on, shoot us a side mail. Let us know. If you have a particular time of season you like to come on, or you want to be on for the postseason show here, shoot me a side mail. We'll see what we can do. Otherwise, guys, like I said, good luck to everybody. Congrats to the guys who won, and enjoy the postseason and the off season.